Hi, everyone. Welcome to Type Talks. Today we're here with Kat, and we're here to talk a little bit about the ENTJ life. And so, welcome. And I'll have her introduce herself a little bit.
I'm a student, so I'm a rising fourth year, majoring in neuroscience, but venturing into as many fields as I possibly can.
And so I actually met Kat at a conference, and we discussed a few topics during that. And I'd love to talk with you about some of them here. You talked about the frustration of inefficiency. So I'm curious if you could go a little bit into that in your experience.
Yeah, um, first off, I don't know if this will apply to every ENTJ, so with that kind of preface out of the way, um, for me, I feel like this might be a pretty common ENTJ trait to be frustrated when people are doing things inefficiently. Um, and I think for me, a lot of it comes down to the fact that I want to tell people how to do it more efficiently, but then that's not very societally acceptable to just tell people how you could change or how they could change their behavior to be more efficient. And so like knowing that I can't say anything, but really wanting to feels really frustrating to me.
It's like you could do it so much better. You could min-max this so much better. And that's something that you love to talk about, like you min-max everything too.
Yeah, I've always thought it was like a really common tendency. Like if you could like have a more of a good thing, why would you not have more of a good thing? Um, but then I guess it's good to smell the flowers every once in a while.
Exactly, yeah. If we were to give the audience an example of certain things you min-max, what would you mention? And like, I'm curious about your thoughts there.
I think the most common thing I min-max is like my time. So I imagine a lot of people do this, where I try to figure out like here's something I do very frequently. So, say it's like cooking or doing my laundry or something like that. And then I try to figure out how do I do it in a more time efficient manner, such that like I have as much time as possible to do the things that I think are really worth doing, like work or meditation or things like that. Um, but I think like it's also just really fun to think about min-maxing just about everything. um, like usually there's a sense when I'm doing a project where there is a good enough or like my vision for something, and if I don't reach that vision it feels like I have to put more work into it even if it makes me late for the deadline or something like that.
And you even talk about min-maxing relationships too. And so in a sense, there is a way like to like do this, and then it makes your relationships go more efficiently too.
Yeah, it's definitely I almost see it as like I feel like in a lot of social situations, there's like multiple things I want to say. Um, and for me, I can kind of like almost see them as like a like dialogue options, the kind of ones you might see in a video game, for example. And then like also see like, oh, this one will improve friendship points by 10% or something like that. But this one will decrease friendship points. So I probably shouldn't go in that direction. Um, and it's like I feel like when you kind of see what the dialogue options might be and what they might do to your relationships, I feel like it's really difficult not to try to optimize for that.
You're calculating the return on investment almost like it's a video game in a sense. You do this and you're likely to roll a 10 here. So,
Yeah, definitely. So it's like I try to do it whilst still giving the other person like being genuinely myself, whatever that might be. Um,
yeah, you are really good at doing both those things too.
hopefully I'm not just manipulating everyone around me and like they think they want to be my friend, but no, they don't actually.
Yeah, and something you talked about in regards to relationships is you talked about the intriguing click, click, click phenomenon, where it's like your theory on a good interpersonal connection. And so I actually think it's helpful to anyone in general. So I was like, oh, I'd love to even get you to share a little bit about that and like what is click, click, click theory that you made?
Yeah. Well, if I knew there was going to be a video about it, I wish I came up with a better name. Um,
I actually love the name click 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 theory. I think it's so real.
yeah. So it's kind of this theory I came up with one of my other friends in college that I talked to a lot about relationships and personality and stuff, where there's like almost three ways in which you could click with someone. Um, on the one end, you have the click, which is kind of quote unquote the most surface level, where you have good banter. When you're like together, the conversation keeps flowing, and like you're having a really good time. You're laughing lots, and like this is something that like it's the most obviously like you're vibing with this person. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have the click, click, clicks, which is like when you're getting really deep and personal with other people. You're kind of talking about the things that really that might have happened in your life and like things that you need to kind of be vulnerable in order to talk about. And like it seems like talking about that kind of stuff with people helps you really bond, especially if they've experienced something similar or they're really good at like kind of I guess reflecting that information back to you if they're like a listener in the style you like. And then in the middle is the kind of click that I don't think enough people talk about, which is the click click, where it's about the things you kind of find the most important in life. So for some people, this might be religion. For some people, this might be philosophy, etc. This really could be anything, but finding other people who share that with you and kind of like have the same kind of meaning to life as you. So if you imagine like Christians hang out with other Christians because they kind of have the same meaning to life, and also, for example, someone who's really big into moral philosophy might vibe better with other people who's really into moral philosophy in the ways that feels really significant to them.
Exactly. And so you can kind of get from this theory that the three things that can create a connection are banter, shared values, and getting personal with someone. And I think that that kind of mental model is actually very good for someone to understand how to understand social relationships. And if you're struggling with them, that's something that might help with understanding some of the ways to click or vibe with people. So I thought it was such a simple way to put complex social interactions. And then once you know that as an ENTJ, you're like, what's the quickest way to A to B? So like, how do I create banter as quick as possible, or share values as close as possible? In some ways, with the TESE, quick immediate results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, you don't have to click in every single one of the ways, nor is it like you have to click, click before you can click, click, click. Like, I definitely have friends that I only click, click, click with, which is really interesting, friendship wise. But
Yeah, that you only have deep conversation with.
yeah, like, I feel like I can unload like every trauma I've ever had. But like, when we talk, like, we're not very humorous. Like, we're not like quote unquote visibly vibing. But then I share a really deep bond with them.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, you're able to surround yourself with the right company. So, you also mentioned repeated behaviors can seem like traits to you. And so I was wondering like what you meant with that. And I think it's a phenomena that quite a few ENTJs can relate to. So I thought I'd ask you about it.
Yeah, I feel like this is a part of a larger issue I have where I feel like I could see something happen once or twice and assume there's a pattern behind it when like I probably don't have a big enough sample size to say that. And applied to humans, I feel like what happens a lot of the times is someone will do something. And if we think about like why people do things, there's like so many reasons. It could just be like the weather was really hot that day, so they were slightly more irritable. But I think it's really easy to see people do things um, and assume they are that kind of person. So they're a person who gets is easily irritable, as opposed to like attribute it to the kind of environment or other factors going on. Yeah, kind of like the attribution bias or some other psychological term here. Um, and I think like being just really consciously aware of like why people do things is like really nice for me to not get annoyed at people because I think because I'm so prone to seeing patterns in other humans and also just in the environment in general, it's very easy for me to see not only the good patterns but the bad patterns. So it's like nice to remind myself like, okay, like let's attribute confidence ratings to every single trait I see in other people so that I'm not like unfairly judging them.
I like the confidence rating, it's almost making it kind of mathematical in a sense. What's a sign
Yeah.
of value? The introverted intuition is seeing a pattern immediately, and so it's easy to draw a conclusion in some sort of way. And then you have to, in a way, reel yourself back and wait until the evidence shows itself too. And also being leading with extroverted thinking first, you're gonna wanna make an opinion as quickly as possible right away, and then you can change that opinion over time, but you do tend to have an opinion on things. So,
Yeah, people say I'm too opinionated, one might say. But yeah, I didn't even know that. Like you explaining it just made so many things click in my mind.
oh, thank you, Kat. Yeah. And I feel like Kat is an interesting ENTJ, and a lot of ENTJs are like this, where they're actually more bubbly and fun than you think that they are from the descriptions. So, like, Kat has something where she says, like, I can appear like an ENFP or ENTP off the surface, but that's like the fun, jovial side, like this outward bubbliness, but you're actually very much about goals and like getting that thing done and efficiency. It's just that people have to get to know you to know it. Because you're not voicing that internal process outwardly because you want to appear friendly and likable for the relationship points.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you just read the description for ENTJ, like, why would anyone want to be friends with this person? And it's like, if I'm trying to, like, quote unquote, optimize friendship, then, like, obviously I can't appear that way. And I found that, like, I think ENFPs are, like, especially ENFPs and ENTPs are, like, the most similar to ENTJ in terms of, like, what I can appear as while still being, like, natural. But like I feel like people like them, right? I feel like most people like ENFPs and ENTPs.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's kind of like an easy way to just like not come off too domineering.
And so a lot of ENTJs can look very stereotypically P-like, and so they can appear easygoing, they know how to have fun, but because you're not seeing their work side, but also it's not efficient or effective to be domineering. So, yeah,
Yeah, and or go on.
yeah, so a lot more ENTJs are like Cat than you'd think.
Yeah, and I'd even add to that like a something I'm working on, like a pattern I've seen in my life is like there's people I'm friends with and then I might start a project with them or like some other like more work related thing and like very quickly they don't like me anymore because they kind of see this other side of me and I think a lot of friendship is built off of expectations and because they were expecting like the more fun and jovial side, they almost like see like having the expectation fall short by so much is like really jarring and I think like not a positive experience for most people.
When you put that ENTJ hat on, people are like, "Who are you?" And it's like, "This is the TE that was always there." But then now it's applicable because we have a project to do, so
Yeah, exactly.
makes sense. Alright, well, thank you, Kat, so much for coming out today.
Thank you for
You're
having me.
my favorite conversation at the conference, so thank you for just being so good at, like, talking and, like, making me feel at home in your presence, so you made the conference really fun for me.
Thank you.
So
I hope that ups the friendship points a lot, you know.
yeah, plus 50 friendship points, especially by coming on video with me. I'm like, you also get additional free, what do you call friendship points. You hit all the Easter eggs there, so
See, I feel like you're also hitting like my friendship points because this is really tapping into like my ego. And like Lord knows my ego is the most important thing to me. So like I feel like someone is finds me so interesting, they want to interview me, it's like a huge ego boost.
so if you're back in my area, I'd always love to talk with you. And
Yeah,
so,
likewise.
thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you all in the next episode.